It is a movement growing by leaps and bounds in private and Catholic schools, the return to classical education. The curriculum focuses on building young minds to pursue truth with a focus on the fine arts, classical literature, and the history of civilization. In an age where test scores are plummeting and woke agendas permeate schools, is the classical route the answer? Joining us tonight to discuss is Jeremy Tate, founder and CEO of the Classical Learning Test. Jeremy, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it. For a long time, classical education was really the cornerstone of Catholic and Christian schools. Why was it replaced, and what was it replaced with?
Absolutely. The whole history of the church, really the church preserved the classics and passed down this generation, this body of knowledge from one generation to the next. And then really beginning in the 20th century, we embraced a new kind of utilitarian progressive education. And essentially the idea was that if students are not going to use it, they shouldn't have to learn it. But unfortunately, that eliminates things like poetry, philosophy, they would even say religion. So it is really a completely different kind of education, which I would call a secular progressive model that really took the place of classical, which really was the tradition of the church for centuries and centuries.
Yeah, and even in some schools, they took away cursive handwriting. What has happened in the wake of the overall departure from the classical model? And could this be why we're seeing the rise of concepts like critical race theory?
Absolutely. And Tracy, fundamentally, what we're talking about is a change in what we call the telos, or the goal, or the end of education itself. For the church, it has always been about the cultivation of virtue, cultivation of a love for Jesus Christ, right? And the goal has shifted to something kind of like college and career readiness. It's almost vague what exactly the goal is right now, but it's certainly not the cultivation of virtue or the formation of the whole person in the way that has always been the goal or the end of education as the Catholic Church has understood it. So the consequences of this, we're seeing this everywhere. But the good news is that there is absolutely an incredible renaissance. There is a revival happening right now. New schools starting all over the place. My own kiddos go to Divine Mercy Academy. A fighter pilot started this school. It's been covered on EWTN already at least a couple times, I believe. The school, the enrollment is blowing up. These kids are going to daily mass. They say the rosary every day. This is what parents are looking for. And the difference, you see the difference in the lives of these young people. Qualitatively, maturity, carrying themselves with eloquence and character. The future is bright, I believe.
Yeah, and you say it, I'm hearing it right here, classical education really seems to be the answer, providing students and obviously parents with a lot there, and seems to be really getting them ready for life in general. I want to pivot here for a moment to the topic of standardized testing. On one hand, It seems like a really good idea, right? But there seems to be a little bit more to that. Talk to us about that.
And Tracy, your timing here is perfect, and I'm hoping EWTN can help us break this story. But right now, NWEA Maps, which is a standardized testing company that is utilized by, unfortunately, hundreds of Catholic schools, in some ways has just kind of been caught pushing a very, very radical kind of fringe element of a LGBTQ plus agenda, recommending the drag queen's dress goes swish, 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 for kindergartners, for pre-K, for 5-year-olds, right? This is the standardized testing company that's being used, again, by hundreds of Catholic schools. So typically standardized testing, we think of it as something almost that's so boring, it's just something you've got to do. But really, standardized testing drives curriculum. It conveys to students and schools what's important and what isn't important. Just about 7 years ago, we launched an alternative to the SAT and ACT. As you may know, the College Board is arguably the most powerful education entity in America. And they're pushing a lot of this ideology through testing in this way that nobody would assume. Our position at CLT is that if the tests drive curriculum, students ought to be reading St. Augustine, Thomas Aquinas, Flannery O'Connor, Catherine of Siena. They should be reading C.S. Lewis from the great tradition of the church and the West. So that's what we're doing here at CLT.
Well, Jeremy, thank you for bringing all this up. Thank you for talking to us about it and bringing all this to light. We appreciate it. Hope to talk to you soon.
Thank you, Tracy.